Thank you very much, House Chair. Greetings to the Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema, leadership, and the over 1 million members of the EFF. The EFF rejects the DA neoliberal-sponsored medium-term budget policy statement presented by the Minister of Finance and possibly crafted at Stellenbosch. Clearly, the ANC hasn't learned anything from its declining electorate support in the 2024 national elections. Chair, South Africa is currently suffering under an economic agenda driven by neoliberalism and austerity, which prioritizes private profit over public good. For 3 decades, the National Treasury has championed policies that serve the interests of the private sector, entrenching racial inequality and perpetuating high levels of unemployment, especially amongst the young people. We're speaking today here, but more than 12 million people are unemployed, with the youth unemployment rate reaching 70.6%. A clear demonstration that this budget has failed to address the urgent need for job creation, particularly for the youth who face a miserable future under these policies. The budget's reliance on the private sector for essential services and infrastructure is a strategy doomed to fail. The private sector has proven time and again that it lacks commitment to South Africa's development, as shown by the failure by the COVID-19 loan guarantee scheme, where only 18.2 billion of the targeted 200 billion was utilized. A clear sign that the priority for private business is profit and not social responsibility. By placing the future of South Africa's infrastructure in private hands, this government is essentially surrendering our nation's future to corporations whose sole concern is profit. House Chair, the so-called Operation Vulindlela, which aims to integrate the private sector into critical state functions, is a flawed and unimaginative reform strategy. The National Treasury's target of creating 1 million jobs over 10 years is woefully insufficient when over 12 million South Africans are unemployed today. This policy lacks the vision and ambition required to transform South Africa's economic landscape. Instead, it positions the country on a trajectory that will only deepen existing inequalities. House Chair, South Africa's development demands more than the low expectations set by Operation Vulindlela. It requires a complete overhaul of economic priorities, focusing on state-driven job creation and industrialization. House Chair, this is what needs to happen. The state must reassert control over key sectors, including logistics, telecommunications, and finance. Privatization in these areas has undermined state capacity and allowed private entities to profit at the expense of the public. The state should lead, invest, and build in these sectors, thereby creating jobs and ensuring that essential services are accessible to all South Africans, not just those who can afford. Financial inclusivity cannot be achieved without a state bank that prioritizes the needs of the people over profit. A state bank would offer affordable loans and support small businesses, addressing the exclusionary practices of commercial banks. Furthermore, a sovereign wealth fund would safeguard South Africa's economic future, creating reserves that can be deployed in times of crisis and reducing dependence on foreign capital, which often comes with exploitative conditions. For the youth, House Chair, the state must implement large-scale public works programs that provide training, skills development, and immediate employment opportunities for young people. These programs should focus on infrastructure, renewable energy, and community development sectors that will build a sustainable future for South Africa while equipping young people with essential skills. Privatization of state-owned entities must be halted. The budget cuts and austerity measures have starved these entities, pushing them towards failure and opening doors for private takeovers. Instead of allowing privatization under the guise of efficiency or market-based solutions, the state should invest in improving these entities, ensuring they serve the people's interests rather than the corporate profits. The budget statement has failed to address the financial needs of local governments, leaving municipalities with inadequate resources and pushing them towards privatized service delivery. The state must support municipalities with adequate funding and capacity building programs, empowering them to provide essential services directly to communities. This policy statement represents a continuation of policies that have not only failed, but have actively contributed to poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The neoliberal alliance between the DA and the ANC has only served to empower a small elite while leaving millions in despair. The EFF will not support policies that entrench racialized poverty, undermine state capacity, and rob South Africans of their future. Let us be clear. The EFF is committed to a South Africa where economic policy is driven by the needs of the people, not the profits of the few. We reject the so-called reforms of Operation Vulindlela, which seeks to transform the public assets into profit-generating opportunities for corporations while leaving the people in poverty. The time for change is now. We need a new economic path that is people-centered and bold enough to break free the shackles of neoliberalism and austerity. South Africa deserves an economy that works for all, a government that prioritizes its citizens, and a future that belongs to the people. House Chair, we reject the Operation Vulindlela for as long as it opens door to privatization of Transnet, of Eskom, of water and sanitation. Let's build state capacity that will see Transnet being a logistics company that is counted among the best in the world. Let's build state capacity that will see Eskom switching on the lights here in South Africa, Africa at large, giving a little hope to our hopeless masses. Let us work together to reclaim our economy, restore the dignity of the marginalized, and build a nation where